Let us consider a system of particles of mass m1, m2 and so on mn. These are at distances r1 and r2, so on rn from the axis of rotation. Now its moment of inertia, total moment of inertia of system is m1 r1 square plus m2 r2 square plus so on mn rn square. If m1 is equal to m2 is equal to so on mn is equal to m. Now I is equal to m r1 square plus r2 square plus 1 rn square. So it is multiplied and divided by n. Then equation leads to I is equal to n into m, means n particles are there. So each of mass m, then n into m, which gives us capital M, total mass of the system. This is total mass r1 square plus r2 square plus so on rn square by n. I is equal to, we are finding the radius of gyration, therefore instead of I, let us substitute mk square, that equal to m r1 square plus r2 square plus so on rn square by n. Mm gets cancelled. K is equal to root over r1 square plus r2 square plus 1 rn square by n. This is one more formula to find the radius of gyration of a system of particles. I would like to stress on this point. Radius of gyration can be estimated for a regular body. For that, I was given already explanation for circular disc and ring and so on. If anybody is given, if you know the moment of inertia about a given axis, you can easily estimate the radius of gyration by that formula. Now this is another way. Suppose if it is not regular body, it is a system of particles, then under which the radius of gyration can be estimated by this formula. So let us make a discussion over the problems related to this radius of gyration for a system of particles. Example 1. Suppose there are 4 identical particles in a system. 4 identical particles, m, and m. These are at distances 1 meter, 2 meter, 3 meter and 4 meter from the axis of rotation. Then its radius of gyration as a whole for the system is, so which can be find k is equal to root over r1 square 1 square plus 2 square plus 3 square plus 4 square by 4, which gives us root over 30 by 4, which gives 2.7 meters. So this is the way to find the radius of gyration if it is a system of particles having identical masses. Suppose if they are not identical in mass, suppose its mass is 1 kg, 2 kg, 3 kg and 4 kg, say example, then how do you find the radius of gyration? Radius of gyration k is equal to, so here I is equal to, first of all let us estimate the moment of inertia, m1 r1 square plus m2 r2 square plus m3 r3 square plus m4 r4 square by, enough. Now this is 1 into 1 square plus 2 into 2 square plus 3 into 3 square plus 4 into 4 square. You simplify this, you will get some finite amount. Then mk square, k square is equal to, so this is 1 into 1 square plus 2 into 2 square plus 3 into 3 square plus 4 into 4 square by total mass. Total mass how much? 4, 3, 7, 7, 3, 10. 10. By simplifying this, so you will get a radius of gyration. If their mass is given and their corresponding distance is given from the axis of rotation, you can estimate the radius of gyration by this method, system of particles, and identical masses are given, and this is the way to find radius of gyration. Okay, so I expect that you are properly understood this concept. So let us move to next concept, which is parallel and perpendicular axis theory. Here, in finding the moment of inertia, so far we covered what is inertia, what is moment of inertia, and how many varieties of moment of inertia are there, and what is the radius of gyration, and how to find the radius of gyration if any problem is given. So all these varieties are covered. The next, we are going for the theorems. Two theorems are introduced. They are perpendicular axis theorem and parallel axis theorem. So what is the use of these two theorems? So I will make a discussion over it further. First of all, we start with perpendicular axis theorem and parallel axis theorem. Okay? Perpendicular axis theorem. Right. Under which case we use this theorem? Suppose we know the moment of inertia of a regular body about an axis. So we can also estimate the moment of inertia of the same body about any other axis which is perpendicular to the given axis. Then we can use perpendicular axis theorem. For example, there is a rectangular sheet. This is a rectangular sheet. So its moment of inertia about this axis, center axis, we know. And its moment of inertia about the axis passing through the same point and perpendicular to its length. Means earlier axis is like this, now the axis is like this. These two axes are perpendicular, under which every time to find the moment of inertia by the method, it is very difficult. Therefore, by simplifying, by directly applying to find the moment of inertia, if we know the moment of inertia about any other axis, we can estimate the moment of inertia of the same regular body about another axis which is passing through the same point perpendicular to this axis. So this is the use of perpendicular axis theorem. And it's a very, very important point you should keep in your mind, that this perpendicular axis theorem is only applicable for plane lamina, a slice. Plane lamina means it is only applicable for two-dimensional objects, not for three-dimensional. Only two-dimensional. It is a plane lamina. Example, this is plane lamina. It has area. We can apply the moment of perpendicular axis theorem for this plane lamina. Or a paper piece, or potato slice. If potato is making so many slices, chips, so one chip or one slice is taken to be a lamina. For that moment of inertia, that is perpendicular axis theorem is to be used in finding the moment of inertia of that slice or the plane lamina. Okay? Now, how do we make this formula relevant to perpendicular axis theorem? Let us consider the plane lamina. This is z-axis. So this is x-axis and this is y-axis. Now this plane lamina is in xy plane. Z-axis is perpendicular to this plane. Z-axis is perpendicular to plane of the lamina. Now let us consider a small particle whose mass m at point P on the plane lamina, which is in xy plane. Now let us make a perpendicular lines from this particle to x-axis and one more perpendicular line on y-axis from this particle. So this perpendicular line made on x-axis, which is quite parallel to y-axis, therefore let it be y, and this perpendicular line made on y-axis, which is quite parallel to x-axis, therefore it is say x, and one more perpendicular line is made from z-axis in the plane, say it is r. Okay, now here moment of inertia, suppose this is x-axis, there is a particle of mass m at a distance of y. About this axis, this particle is moving. Its moment of inertia Ix is equal to m y square. For this total lamina, so many particles are there, summation of m y square. And similarly, go for y-axis. This is y-axis, and a particle is there here, which is at a distance of x and which is rotating about this axis. Its moment of inertia is equal to mx square summation for all these particles concerned to this lamina. Now this is Ix, this is Iy. Now go for this triangle. This is say O, P and Q. From this triangle OPQ, from triangle OPQ, R square is equal to, this is right angle triangle, R square equal to y square plus x square, and this equation is multiplied by summation of m on both sides, summation m r square, summation m y square plus summation m x square. This is moment of inertia about z axis. See, this is z axis, particle is here, this is r moving about this axis, therefore moment of inertia about z axis is equal to summation m r square. This is Iz, this is I, summation my square is equal to Ix, summation mx square equal to Iy. Simply it is Iz equal to Ix plus Iy. This is the formula related to perpendicular axis theorem. Now I would like to give the statement of perpendicular axis theorem. What is the statement? The moment of inertia of a plane lamina about an axis passing through a point perpendicular to its plane is equal to sum of the moment of inertia of the plane lamina about two mutually perpendicular axes in the plane of lamina and passing through the same point. So I try my level best to make understand easy by taking this cardboard. This is a plane lamina. Okay, now z-axis is taking perpendicular to it. This is z-axis. So statement is, this is x-axis in the plane of the lamina, this is y-axis, this is x-axis, this is z-axis. Now here z-axis is perpendicular to the plane lamina, xy axis are in the plane of the lamina. Now the statement is, the moment of inertia of the plane lamina about an axis passing through a point perpendicular to the plane, what is this? Z-axis, Iz, is equal to sum of the moment of inertia of the plane lamina about two mutually perpendicular axes, x and y. in the plane of lamina passing through the same plane. Means whenever, wherever you are going to apply the perpendicular axis theorem, you should follow that the three axes must pass through the same point. Otherwise, there is no right to use this perpendicular axis theorem. Keep in our mind. So this is regarding perpendicular axis theorem. What is the use of it? Once you know the moment of inertia of a plane lamina about an axis, we can also estimate the moment of inertia of the same lamina about another axis which is perpendicular to it and passing through the same point. This is the use. Okay. Next, go for another theorem, parallel axis theorem. Parallel axis theorem. So it's very clear. In the theorem, its name is given. By that name, we can understand easily. Perpendicular axis. Axis must be perpendicular passing through same point. Now here, the axis must be parallel. Okay, in this case, there is also limitation. Already we discussed the limitation regarding the limitation of perpendicular axis theorem. What is the limitation there? The limitation is only applicable for plane lamina, not for three-dimensional object, only for 2D objects. Plane lamina. Now here, parallel axis theorem. This theorem can be used for any kind of object. So plane lamina or 3D object, what not. You can apply for any body. So this is the limitation of parallel axis theorem. Right? So keep in your mind, it's a very important point. We should use the parallel axis theorem for any object. Okay? Now, here, let us consider a rigid body. This rigid body definitely has its own center of gravity. What does it mean? The point where the whole weight of the body is supposed to be concentrated and passing through it is known as center of gravity. Means this is the point inside the body through which whole weight acts is known as center of gravity. Yes, let us represent a center of gravity in this regular body. Imagine one axis passing through the center of gravity. About this axis, say Ig is moment of inertia of this regular body. Okay? Now, somebody wants to find its moment of inertia. Means its moment of inertia is Ig about an axis passing through center of gravity. Suppose this value is known. We know its value. Then somebody asks a question. How do you find its moment of inertia about any other axis which is parallel to this axis? Suppose parallel axis means the axis passing through the body and which is parallel to the axis passing through center of gravity or passing through somewhere outside but parallel to the axis passing through center of gravity and somewhere. Keep in your mind the other axis about which you are going to find its moment of inertia that must be parallel to the axis passing through center of gravity but no need to pass through the object. Either it passed through the object or out of the object. It doesn't matter. So which can be moved, which can pass through the object or outside of the object. We can easily apply the parallel axis theorem, but one point should be keep in your mind, which is out of these two parallel axes, one axis must pass through center of gravity. Other axis that must be parallel to it and passing through anywhere, any point, either through object or outside of the object. So we can easily apply. There is no objection at all while using this parallel axis theorem, right? So here there are two parallel axes. We know the moment of inertia about this axis passing through center of gravity. So let us find the moment of inertia about some other axis which is parallel to first one, which is AB. Its moment of inertia is, say, I. So we are going to find its moment of inertia, I. For that, let us consider a particle somewhere in this rigid body, which is at a distance B, perpendicular distance B from the axis passing through center of gravity. As we know the fundamental for finding the moment of inertia of this particle about this center axis, that Ig is equal to m b square. For whole regular body or rigid body, summation mb square. Okay, this is moment of inertia about the axis passing through center of gravity. Now, distance between these two parallel axes, say x, this is say point O, this is G. But from this axis, the same particle is at a distance R. Now, about this axis, what is the moment of inertia of this particle? What is the moment of inertia of the whole rigid body? I is equal to, I we can estimate it. I is equal to summation m r square. In similar manner, so we are calculated or we are taken directly formula that Ig is equal to summation mb square. It is a basic formula. So this formula is taken earlier, that is a very fundamental, and similar manner we taken this formula Iz equal to summation mb square, and about this axis, that is summation mr square, because r is the distance of this particle from this axis AB. Now let us make a perpendicular line from this particle. This is perpendicular line. So this is P, this is Q. Now we have a right angle triangle OPQ from triangle OPQ. From triangle OPQ. Then using Pythagoras theorem, R square is equal to OQ square plus PQ square. R square is equal to OQ is equal to OG, that is X plus GQ square plus PQ square. Simplify this. X square plus GQ square plus 2xGQ plus PQ square. X square equal to GQ square plus PQ square plus X square plus 2x into GQ. See here, GQ square plus PQ square is equal to hypotenuse square, that is B square. R square equal to B square. Instead of this one, B square plus X square plus 2x GQ. Now multiply this equation by summation of m on both the sides. Summation m R square equal to summation mb square plus summation mx square plus summation 2mx gq. So summation m R square, just substitute I. Summation mb square, Just substitute mv square instead of mv square ig plus summation m is giving total mass of the rigid body x square plus this term becomes 0. So I would remind this point, summation 2mx. Mx means mass into distance. Mass into distance from where? The distance is taken from this center of gravity. See here, this is center of gravity. Suppose somewhere here the mass is imagined, m into x on one side, similarly m into x on another side. So one side positive, another side is negative, their sum is 0. And similarly around this center of gravity, so around that center of gravity, if you are taking their pair, one is positive, other one is negative, algebraic sum of the momenta about the center of mass become 0. This is a very important point which comes in center of mass chapter. In the center of mass, one of the characteristics of center of mass, that is algebraic sum of the momenta about the center of mass of a regular body become 0. Based on that, we are putting this as 0. And finally, we are getting I is equal to Ig plus mx square. This is parallel axis theorem. Of course, now I am giving its a statement, what exactly it is. So, I is the moment of inertia of this regular body about this axis. Unknown value. This is known value. Known and passing through center of gravity. Known and passing through center of gravity. Now, the statement is the moment of inertia of a rigid body about an axis passing through any point parallel to an axis passing through center of gravity is equal to sum of the moment of inertia about an axis passing through center of gravity and the product of whole mass and square of the distance between the two axes. I would like to repeat once again. The moment of inertia of a regular body or a rigid body, moment of inertia of a rigid body of any regular shape is equal to sum of the moment of inertia about an axis passing through center of gravity parallel to the given axis and product of whole mass and square of the perpendicular distance between the two axes. This is parallel axis theorem, and this can be used. Suppose once you know the moment of inertia of this rigid body about center of gravity axis, you can find the moment of inertia of the same body about any axis which should be parallel from anywhere. Which should be parallel. And out of these two axes, parallel axis theorem, while you are applying the parallel axis theorem, you should keep in your mind one point is very, very important. Already I was mentioned there before starting this theorem. That is, out of these two axes, one axis must pass through center of gravity. Don't use this parallel axis theorem straight away for the two axes which are parallel to each other, but out of these two axes, even a single axis is not passing through the center of gravity. I will give you its relevant problem now. Let us move on this problem. So let us consider a rigid body. It has center of gravity here and one axis passing through this body other than the center of gravity. This is axis AB, its moment of inertia say I1, and another axis. This value is known. Its value is known value. And the question is asked, find the moment of inertia of the same rigid body rigid body about another axis CD, which is parallel to the given axis at a distance of r. So once again I repeat the question. There is a rigid body. It has its own center of gravity. Of course, that was not mentioned. But the moment of inertia of this rigid body about an axis AB is I1, it is a known value. By using this, find the moment of inertia of the same body about another axis CD, which is parallel to it at a distance of small r. Generally, the students immediately apply the parallel axis theorem for these two axes which are parallel to each other. Okay, by forgetting that the condition. Okay, so student will make a wrong answer by this I2, say it is I2. I2 is equal to I1 plus mr square. This is the answer. No, it is not correct. So out of these two parallel axes, condition is one axis must pass through center of gravity. Then only we can use parallel axis theorem. Otherwise, it is not correct. So how do we solve this problem? If out of these two axes, even a single axis is not passing through center of gravity. So what is the way to find the moment of inertia of the body about CD axis? Let us see. First of all, imagine axis passing through center of gravity. It's a distance, perpendicular distance, say x1, and the remaining, say this is x2. Now this is having its moment of inertia, say Ig. Ig is the moment of inertia. Now we can use parallel axis theorem between these two and between these two. You have a right to use parallel axis theorem. No doubt at all. Because you are following the condition. Out of these two axes, one is passing through center of gravity. No objection at all. Out of these two, one of the axis passing through center of gravity. There is no objection at all. But without using this, don't use the parallel axis theorem for the two parallel axes which are not even a single axis not passing through center of gravity. Okay? Now, here first we apply the parallel axis theorem between these two. Why? Because it is known value. By using this known value, we can estimate Ig. Yes, I1 is equal to Ig plus mx1 square. Ig is equal to I1 minus mx1 square, equation 1. And go for these two parallel axes. I2 is equal to Ig plus mx2 square. This is equation 2. And put this equation 1 in equation 2. I2 is equal to Ig equal to I1 minus mx1 square plus mx2 square, which gives us, see, I2 is equal to I1 minus or plus, as you wish, plus into x2 square minus x1 square. See here, this is known value. So this is known value. So this is we are going to find about an axis passing through somewhere, that is CD axis, and these are x1 and x2. Suppose center of gravity from which the first axis distance was mentioned, the remaining distance x2 will be, suppose this is mentioned, it is of 5 centimeters, it is given 15 centimeters. Then what to do? 5 centimeters is removed off, subtracted from it, x2 equal to 10 centimeters. Then x1, x2 values, m is given and I1 is known value. Then you would get I2, moment of inertia about other axis. Okay, so this is one problem, and go for another problem. See, already we discussed three varieties of methods to find the moment of inertia. For a single particle, and for a system of particles, and for continuous mass distribution. So let us go for continuous mass distribution. It is for regular bodies. So we have regular bodies. What are the regular bodies? Thin rod is the regular body. It has continuous mass distribution. Square plate, regular body, it has continuous mass distribution. Rectangular plate is a regular body, has continuous mass distribution. Circular disc, circular ring, solid sphere, hollow sphere, solid cylinder, hollow cylinder. Like this, all these bodies are taken to be regular bodies. Not irregular. Regular means their dimensions are specially mentioned, based on which we can estimate their moment of inertia. The same we continue in this part. Let us find the moment of inertia of a regular body, which is a thin rod. Thin rod of length L and mass capital M. About which are axis? So this thin rod can be rotated about central axis. We can rotate this like this, about central axis, and this can also be rotated about another axis which is passing through edge or one end. So we can rotate. This is a thin rod. We can rotate this about the central axis like this. It has moment of inertia. And this can also be rotated about this axis passing through one end perpendicular to its length. There are two options. So about this axis, about this axis. Okay, there are two axes parallel to each other. Once you find the moment of inertia, see, this is axis passing through center of gravity. Its center of gravity will be at center. Center of mass will be at center. So it is axis passing through center of gravity, center of mass. This is Ig. Once you find the moment of inertia about this axis, and by using parallel axis theorem, you can estimate by using this parallel axis theorem about this axis, we can estimate the moment of inertia for the same rod. Let us see first, we estimate the moment of inertia about the central axis perpendicular to its length. See, this is axis passing through center perpendicular to its length. Okay, now here it is continuous mass distribution. There is no way to directly write its moment of inertia. What to do? The method is there, integration method. So this is continuous mass distribution. Therefore, this rod is assumed to be number of elemental masses, identical elemental masses. Consider one such element. See, so many elements are considered over here. dm, so many elements. So considering one element which is at a distance x from the axis of rotation and its length is, say, dx. First of all, for a body which is a linear object, it has only length, its thickness is neglected. For such kind of body has a density, linear density. Using the linear density, rho is equal to m by L. Okay, I want to find the mass of this element. Mass of the element dm is equal to rho into dx. Yes, dm is equal to rho m by L into dx. Okay, we have a formula to find the moment of inertia. I is equal to integration dm into x square. dm into x square. Now here I is equal to dm, integration dm m by L into dx x square. We are taking the limits. The elements are taking on both the sides. So from here to here it is minus L by 2. From here to here plus L by 2. Elements are taking on one side and taking on another side equal distance. Therefore, minus L by 2 to plus L by 2 limits. Now, I is equal to, so this can be written as double the integration 0 to L by 2. So we are taking that 0 to L by 2, we can take it here 2 times, 2 into m by L into x square dx. I is equal to 2 m by L, take outside, it is constant. X square dx integration is x cube by 3, taking limit 0 to L by 2. I is equal to 2m by 3L. Now put this value instead of x, you will get L cube by 8. You will get ml square by 12. This is the moment of inertia of this thin rod about an axis passing through its center perpendicular to its length. Okay. Now the next question is, how do you find the moment of inertia of this same rod about an axis passing through one end perpendicular to its length? So for this, no need to do the same derivation. It is a lengthy derivation. For this axis, no need to do it again. So we can easily find by using the theorem. Which one? Parallax theorem. Already we know the axis passing through center of gravity, Ig, which is already calculated over here, m L square by 12, and this is I. Distance between these two, x equal to L by 2. Yes, using parallax theorem, I is equal to Ig. See here, when we are going to apply the parallax theorem, the condition should be followed by anybody who is going to solve the problem. What is that? They must be parallel, out of which one axis must pass through center of gravity. Right? Here, Ig plus m x square, I is equal to Ig, ml square by 12 plus m L square by 4. By simplifying this, ml square by 3. This is moment of inertia of same rod about an axis passing through one end. Okay? Next, let us move to another problem. Yeah, I hope you understood properly. So far we discussed the concepts and some relevant problems. Okay, next we move to another question. Suppose the rod is at certain inclination, its length L and mass m, and making certain angle theta. Now in this case, earlier the rod is exactly perpendicular to the axis of rotation. In such case, okay, the method we know. But here, the rod is not perpendicular. It is at certain inclination like this. This is the axis and this is rod. Here the angle is given theta. In this case, how do you find the moment of inertia? Definitely changes. See, very logical method. I am not going in lengthy method. It's a very logic. See, this length is resolved into two components. Here, L sine theta, this side L cos theta. So this leads to, this is the axis. One component on this axis, other component perpendicular to axis. Again, we come to the fundamental condition. That fundamental is axis